Hi, I'm Helen Horyza, and I've been a career coach for over 30 years. So it might seem surprising that my career started out with a crisis. I call it my 26-year-old crisis. Actually, when I graduated from college, I felt like I had a pretty bright future. I had pretty good self-confidence. I had done all right. And then one thing led to another, and I ended up in a clerical job in downtown San Francisco. It was boring. I made a lot of mistakes because I'm not detail-oriented. And my boss made it very clear that she wouldn't be saying anything to me if I did anything right, but if I did anything wrong, she'd let me know. And then I went on to another job down in the Silicon Valley, and I was the personnel clerk for a high-tech company, and I was a disaster. I inverted numbers and letters, I filed the wrong things, I made mistakes, and my boss called me in and gave me a bad performance evaluation, and I just lost my self-esteem. Actually, though, that company had a service where they provided me with an opportunity to take a career assessment. Well, actually not one career assessment. They had several different assessments that they kind of mushed together. And they had a career coach. She wasn't really trained to be a career coach, but nevertheless, she helped me. And I took this array of assessments and I met with this coach, and I remembered who I was. I saw what was down, in terms of my values and what was there in terms of my interests and my skills and my personality. And I thought, I've always wanted to be a counselor. That was, the terminology that I had back then. And it kind of opened my eyes. I got hopeful and I started exploring, and I moved, when I visited a city about 2 hours away from San Francisco, and found a master's program and got accepted, and I quit my job down in the Silicon Valley. They threw a big party when I left. Thank God the company survived. Anyway, I got into that master's program to get my master's of science in career development, and I loved it and I thrived. And when I graduated, I was very pleased to get a position at a small private university, and I was the associate director. And I looked at what was available to help, the students, what kinds of assessments would be helpful. And interestingly enough, the same assessments that I was using in the early 90s are the same assessments that are very popular today. And one of them is a personality assessment. It's very long, it's very expensive. Another one is an interest inventory that was normed in 1920. When I took the assessment, it told me that I should be a funeral director or a social worker. Now I get it. I like helping people. But that was a narrowing experience. It wasn't a creative experience. It wasn't a design process. It was a labeling process. And then I wanted to give the students an opportunity to look at their values, what was important to them, and also to consider their skills. What did they enjoy doing? What gave them energy? And I looked and I looked and I hunted and I hunted, and there just wasn't a single integrated assessment that worked cohesively together. It was this pile of uncorrelated, dated, expensive, confusing tools. And I then kind of had another crossroad in 1997. I realized that I didn't think that my life was going to be fulfilled if I stayed at the university. So I quit. And I started my own career development business. And I also started a sequence of inventions that I want to share with you, because it's an array of resources that can help you build your confidence and find career direction, which is what this webinar is all about. So the first big thing that I needed to figure out was how I was going to find this integrated assessment. And in the year 2000, I was lucky enough to get a really big contract. And I was able to help thousands of people figure out what was their aligned career, what was their talent, what was their strengths, what was their profile, and where would they be most successful in their future. And I used that opportunity to finally design my own career assessment. It's called Elevations. And that hit the market in 2003, and it has subsequently helped over 70,000 people make a career choice, their initial choice, or make a successful career transition at mid-career or even later. And Elevations is a self-report form. It's not a test. There is no test on the planet that will tell you who you are and what you want in the world. You have to find that within yourself. And Elevations allows you to prioritize your values, your enjoyable skills, and identifies your interest patterns, which will then allow you to build a career that you can be proud of. And then it wraps it all into this incredible temperament profile that's super strength-based and uplifting. It will directly impact your self-confidence, I promise. And so that was my first big invention. And then as my private practice grew and I was helping more people, I realized I really needed a model. I needed a foundational model. I needed it for myself and I needed it for my clients so they would understand the strategic and psychological stages that people go through in a healthy career process. And so I invented the Elevate Career Cycle model. And it explains that careers start in crossroads, that you get to a position of misalignment, whether that's you in college not knowing what your major is going to be, not knowing what your career is going to be, or it's you in your 30s kind of hitting a dead end, feeling like, is this it? Is this all? I feel like there's got to be more. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I want. And later places where we get bored or we get sidelined, we get laid off. The world changes. There are so many times when we find ourselves in a crossroad throughout our career. And crossroads are scary. Crossroads stoke your anxiety. And why no one has never told you this before? Why don't they tell you that being misaligned is anxiety producing? It undermines your self-confidence by nature. And so the Elevate Career Cycle model explains that we start in crossroads that stoke our anxiety. And the next step is to settle down a little bit, invest in a period of introspection, and calm down. And that takes you to your journey phase, where you take the Elevations career assessment and take stock of who you are, become self-aware, and become validated so you do begin to start building that self-confidence. And that will take you through a period of networking and research to the contract where you decide what's next. And you emerge out of that process, and then you are home. And you can stay there for a very long time. But life inevitably will bring an evolving process where you end up maybe having to learn how to fish again, how to use the Elevate Career Cycle model and Elevations to figure out the next stage of your career. So the Elevate Career Cycle model has become the foundation for the rest of the things that I want to share with you and that I want you to learn about, because this whole webinar is telling you you're not crazy, you're not broken, you're not doing it wrong, you're normal. You're in the midst of a crossroad, and your journey will involve a self-assessment called Elevations, and that will help you find a direction and build your confidence. So the next step for me was wanting to provide a comprehensive, accessible resource to learn about elevations and to learn about the Elevate Career Cycle model. So in 2020, I published a book called Elevate Your Career, Live a Life You're Truly Proud of. And the foundation of the book is the Elevate Career Cycle model. But there was one more, well, maybe two more things. I felt that it was time for me to take all of these resources and tools and my 30 years of experience and start a coaching school. So in 2021, I founded the Career Coach Entrepreneur Academy. It's an ICF accredited, ICF stands for the International Coaching Federation. It's an ICF accredited level 1 coaching school. And we're one of the only coaching schools that focuses exclusively on career coaching. And so now I'm in a process over the last 4 years or so of producing these incredibly trained coaches who are amazing at coaching, but they're also deeply knowledgeable about elevations, the Elevate Career Cycle model, and the book. And they use those tools to help you build your confidence and find career direction. And so the very last piece was to put that all together in a single website called elevateyourcareer.com. And that's where you can get a bunch of free resources. You can take the first step, which is to take elevations, the career assessment, and you can check out our coach directory. Those are those certified coaches that I've trained that are waiting for you to call them up. They'll give you a 15-minute free phone call so you can find your coach. So you can do what I did when I was 26 years old. Get the support, the self-awareness, the knowledge, the dream back, the hope back, and mitigate the risk that you would take if you just let the next thing fall into your lap or don't do anything. Those are not good ideas. So now that I've sort of laid that all out, you probably still have one more thing that you need to contend with. I don't feel strong. You might be shaking in your boots. You're dealing with imposter syndrome. You're afraid of making a mistake. You want a guarantee. Is this all going to work out for me, Helen? You need confidence. And I promised that you would get a confidence booster by watching this webinar. So here it is. I want to tell you a true story that I believe will substantially ground you and allow you to take the steps that I'm encouraging you to take. This is a true story. This is a true story about an uncle named Jeremiah and a nephew named Giovanni. And Giovanni is 4 years old. And he is in a good family, and he's a great kid, and all of that. And Jeremiah, his uncle, loves him very much. And Jeremiah is a good friend of mine. He's also a coach. And the issue that Giovanni has is that he's afraid. He just has a lot of anxiety in life, in general. I mean, he might be playing a game and he gets scared and he would run into the house, or if they were going into a location he was unfamiliar with, he might be scared because he doesn't know what's happening. But the number one fear that Giovanni has is getting his hair cut. Just hates it. Totally hates it. So his mom, good mom, when it's time to get the haircut, she would say, you don't need to be afraid. It's going to be okay. You don't need to be afraid. And Jeremiah had witnessed this several times. And so when he got a chance, he had some private time with Giovanni. And he said, Giovanni, does it help when your mom says you don't need to be afraid? And Giovanni said, no, doesn't help. And Jeremiah said, well, why doesn't it help? And he said, because I'm afraid. Valid, right? Think about how you might be saying, I shouldn't be so afraid. I shouldn't be so anxious. I shouldn't be so paralyzed. I shouldn't be so stuck. I shouldn't be so worried. It doesn't help because you are. It's valid. So Jeremiah said to his nephew, do you know what courage is? And Giovanni said, no. He's 4 years old. No. And Jeremiah said, courage is something you have inside of you. Courage is something you can use when you're afraid. It's your superpower. You have an unlimited supply. You just need to use it when you're afraid. And so the conversation ended, and, a couple weeks later, Jeremiah gets a call from his sister. What did you do? Jeremiah's like, I don't know what you're talking about. She said, well, we went to go get a haircut today. And, I was getting everybody ready, and I was telling Giovanni he doesn't need to be afraid, and it's going to be okay. And, I was ready for the absolute meltdown. And Giovanni looked at his mother and said, don't worry, Mom. I'm going to use my courage. And he did. Got in the car, went to the salon or the barbershop, sat in the chair, got his haircut. He had courage. He had courage, and so do you. And so do I. And using it is what you need to do at this point. I've spent my career proudly preparing materials and resources and tools, and now coaches who can help you find your courage and help you find a career direction and help you understand the structure and process of career cycles so that the next time you get in a misaligned situation, which you inevitably will, you'll be prepared, you'll be informed, and you won't need to spend as much time, effort, or money figuring out what's next for you. So let me leave you with this. Hit the button that says Start with Elevations. Just hit it. It's a great start. It's an easy start. It's a powerful start. Because you deserve to live a life you're truly proud of.